Today we are going to be solving square root equations. On these square root equations, we're going to restrict it to only ones with one radical. That means there's only one square root in the original problem. So let's look at some examples of what that would look like. So if we look here, we have the square root of x plus 7 equals 16. The step one on these always is to get your square root by itself first. So that means I need to move my plus 7 on the left-hand side to the right. So I'm going to subtract 7 to get it moved. And when I subtract 7 from the other side, I end up with 9. So the square root of x is equal to 9. To undo the square root, I square both sides. And when I square 9, that becomes 81. So x is equal to 81. That's my answer. I want y'all to do number 2 on your own and check it on the Ed puzzle. So you should have come up with x equals 9. Now, let's look at this next one. This is a little bit more complicated. We have more stuff under the square root. When you're working with the square roots, we cannot take anything out of them until we take the square of both sides. So this whole thing gets left all by itself. No one touches brings anything out of it. Sometimes, what I recommend, if that's hard for you to do, I do smiley face substitution. Put a smiley face in its spot. Pretend like it's not there. And solve this equation. So I would solve this equation by subtracting 7 from both sides. And my smiley face was equal to 9. Now, what that smiley face really wasn't a smiley face. It was that square root of x plus 3. Now I have that square root by itself. We're back to like we were doing before. Square both sides. And when we square the left-hand side, that leaves us with the x plus 3 as the only thing there, equals to the 81. I subtract my 3. And I find out that x is equal to 78. Let's do one more like this. So on this case, when I'm trying to get my square root by itself, I have 3 times my square root. And so to undo that, I need to divide both sides by 3. So 7 is equal to that smiley face, which was the square root of 4 minus 5r. Now I square both sides. Squaring this side cancels out the square root. On the other side, 7 squared is 49. And so 4 minus 5r. Now we get the r by itself by subtracting 4 from both sides. And so we have 45 is equal to a negative 5r. Divide both sides by negative 5. And my r is equal to negative 9. We're going to do one more on your own. I want you to go ahead and work this problem and see what your solution is. And we'll check with the next slide. You should have gotten the answer of negative 2. We first had to get the square root by itself, then we squared both sides and moved around and solved for x.